Blockbuster, the cathedral of VHS tapes and DVDs, where Friday nights were sacred and late fees were the original sin. Founded in 1985, Blockbuster was the Netflix before Netflix was cool. It was a place where you could rent The Matrix and accidentally discover Ingmar Bergman. But what happens when a giant falls? Today, we delve into the rise, fall, and the existential crisis of Blockbuster. This is a tale that has everything you're looking for in a blockbuster. Corporate betrayals, greed, spurned chance, and a whole lot of missteps. So grab your popcorn and sit tight. This is a tragedy in 3 acts. Watch this blockbuster about Blockbuster. Our story about the rise begins in the unlikeliest of places, the oil rig. Part 1. The Rise of Blockbuster. The year is 1982, the World Cup is on. Israel invades Lebanon again, and Michael Jackson just moonwalked into history with Thriller. Meanwhile, the oil industry, which had been cruising, hits a pothole the size of Texas. Enter Cook Data Services Incorporated, a small software service company that catered to Texas's oil and gas industry. When the oil industry went belly up, David Cook, the CEO, found himself in a pickle, or rather an oil slick. Broke and customerless, David started hunting for another revenue stream. That's when his wife, Sandy, a cinephile, floated the idea of entering the video rental business. David initially brushed it off, but then he had an epiphany. The video rental landscape was more fragmented than a jigsaw puzzle. Imagine a time. David initially paid no mind to this until he noticed something. The video rental field was highly fragmented. It must be very hard to imagine now, but believe it or not, there was a time when choosing a movie was like playing Russian roulette with VHS tapes. You never knew what you'd get at your local store. And to make matters worse, finding the movie you actually wanted to see could cost you countless trips to countless stores. That was largely due to the nature of retail video rentals. Most stores were small, family-owned operations that carried only a small selection of former big-hit movies. Providing a large selection of movies required a large investment of capital, since distributors typically charged approximately $70 per tape. To make matters worse, tapes were generally not displayed, but kept behind the counter to discourage theft, and had to be fetched and laboriously signed out to the customer. Cook saw that operations could be greatly streamlined by a computerized system for inventory control and checkout, something his software background prepared him to develop. And so, in 1985, Blockbuster was born, opening for the first time officially in Dallas, Texas. The store was an immediate hit. Blockbuster was more than just a video rental store, it was an experience. With its iconic blue and yellow signage, the stores were destined to become family-friendly havens, well-lit and organized, a stark contrast to the dimly lit, cluttered video stores of the time. The business model was simple yet ingenious. Blockbuster offered a wide range of movie titles, far more than any mom-and-pop store could provide, and they leveraged this variety to attract a broad audience. Late fees? Yes, they were a part of the model, but in the beginning, they were also a part of the allure. Be kind, rewind wasn't just a polite suggestion, it was a cultural mantra. People were interested not just in seeing hit movies they had missed in the theaters, but also in a broad variety of other features. By summer 1986, Cook had expanded the Blockbuster concept to 3 additional stores. To reflect the different nature of the company, Cook Data Services became Blockbuster Entertainment Corporation in June 1986. After realizing he needed more investors to truly dominate the video rental industry, Cook, in February 1987, decided to sell 1/3 of Blockbuster to a group of 3 investors for $18.6 million in Blockbuster stock to Wayne Huizenga. With this move, Cook surrendered future control of Blockbuster, and Huizenga became the dominant voice in determining the company's future. Where Cook had envisioned growth through franchising, selling Blockbuster's name and computer system to individual entrepreneurs, Huizenga foresaw growth through company ownership of stores. In April 1987, 2 months after the men from Waste Management bought into Blockbuster, Cook left the company. Soon thereafter, the company's headquarters were moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. By June 1987, Blockbuster owned 15 stores and franchised 20 others. With this base, Huizenga set out to transform Blockbuster into the industry's dominant player. He kept most of Cook's policies, such as store hours from 10 a.m. to midnight every day, a 3-day rental policy which encouraged customers to rent more than 1 tape at once, and a broad selection of titles. With these policies in place, Blockbuster set out on a program of aggressive expansion. The company began to buy back franchised operations with the goal of 60% company-owned Blockbuster outlets. In addition, Wayne Huizenga began to buy up chains of video stores that already dominated their local markets, using this as a shortcut to quick expansion. In no time, Blockbuster became the largest video rental chain in the country. By June 1989, 2 years after Huizenga's takeover, the company ran 700 stores. Sales had tripled, profits nearly quadrupled, and the value of the company's stock had risen sevenfold. At this point, Blockbuster had become more than a brand. It was a cultural phenomenon. With over 2,800 stores globally, it was the place to be on a Friday night. Whether you were planning a date night, a family movie evening, or a solo film fest, Blockbuster had you covered. The company had successfully tapped into the zeitgeist, becoming synonymous with weekend entertainment. At its peak, a new Blockbuster store was opening every 17 hours. Yeah, you heard that right, every 17 hours. During these golden years, Blockbuster was more than just a place to rent movies. It was a social hub. The stores were bustling with people debating over which movie to pick, kids rushing to the video game section, and couples having their first dates amidst the aisles of endless cinematic possibilities. The company even ventured into sports and music, launching Blockbuster Music and acquiring a stake in the Miami Dolphins. Financially, Blockbuster was a juggernaut. By the late 90s, the company was raking in over $3 billion in annual revenue. It had successfully fended off competitors and even made a foray into online rentals. It seemed like nothing could stop this entertainment behemoth. But, as we know, the higher they rise, the harder they fall. And Blockbuster was about to face a series of challenges that would shake its very foundation. Part 2. The Struggles. While Blockbuster continued to expand at what seemed like an unstoppable pace, the very core of its business model, the video rental industry, wasn't doing so well. Although Blockbuster continued its strong pace of new store openings in 1990, the slowing growth of the video retail industry was becoming evident. Though the company's earnings grew an astronomical 114% in 1988, they contracted to a still impressive 93% rate of growth in 1989, followed by a rate of 48% in 1990. Faced with a rapidly maturing industry, Blockbuster began to expand its offerings to maintain profitability. The company began to offer video game equipment and Sega Genesis video games at some of its stores. The company considered selling audio cassettes and compact discs. Blockbuster also acquired the right to market tapes of the 1992 Olympic Games. With its ever-growing number of corporate activities, Blockbuster was committed to diversification as a means of ensuring its future in the entertainment industry in the face of a potential onslaught of new formats, video on demand, and satellite TV, and the shift from rentals to lower-priced dates. In September 1993, Huizenga's Blockbuster makeover hit full stride when the company proposed a $4.7 billion merger with media giant Viacom Incorporated, a deal that ultimately would come back to bite them in the back when it became obvious that Viacom was more debt than asset. But that would come later. Initially, Blockbuster invested heavily in Viacom, reportedly to help strengthen Viacom's bid to purchase Paramount Communications against rival QVC Network Incorporated. Viacom did win the war for Paramount, but the move cost Blockbuster a great deal as Blockbuster shareholders lost confidence in the company and wondered if its investment in Viacom would pay off. By April 1994, Blockbuster's and Viacom stock had tumbled dramatically. Saddled with debt and at the forefront of a slowly declining industry, the music was starting to sound ominous for Blockbuster. To the public, Blockbuster was still an unstoppable force, but those in the know knew that glory days was coming to an end. Part 3. Change. The 2000s ushered in a new era of rapid technological advancements, and with it came new ways to consume media. DVDs, streaming services, and digital downloads started to gain traction, but Blockbuster was slow to adapt. The company's first mistake? Underestimating the power of the internet. With competition stiffening due to newly emerging formats, the video industry's meteoric growth began to level off. Moreover, there was trouble internally. The merger between Blockbuster and Viacom, though eventually effected, had been rough, and Viacom was reportedly depending heavily on Blockbuster's cash to help pay its debts and have money for future investments. To make matters worse, leadership at Blockbuster seemed unstable. Wayne Huizenga ceded his leadership role in the company in September 1994 and was replaced as president by Stephen Berard, who focused on rapidly expanding the company during his year and a half on the job. Due to legal troubles, Berard left to be succeeded by Bill Fields in March 1996. Soon thereafter, Fields was named CEO as well, and during his brief tenure attempted to revitalize the company's image. Specifically, he set about transforming Blockbuster's video rental stores into whole entertainment centers, selling t-shirts, toys, snacks, books, magazines, and CDs, as well as selling and renting videos. Fields also oversaw the company's move from Fort Lauderdale to Dallas to be closer to its new centralized distribution center. He also downsized the company's workforce, paring back about 1/3 of its senior staff and 2/3 of its overall staff before he left for a position at Walmart. At this time, Blockbuster's worth was estimated at $4.6 billion, with its stock worth only 50% of its 1993 price. The writing was on the wall. It was only a matter of time before they fell, and fall they did. Part 4. Demise. Faced with a rapidly maturing industry, a ton of debt, and internal power politics, Blockbuster found itself stuck in execution precisely at a point in history where speed mattered more than direction. DVDs, streaming services, and digital downloads all started to gain traction, but Blockbuster was slow to adapt. The company's first mistake? Underestimating the power of the internet. In a move that would become one of the most infamous missed opportunities in business history, Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for a mere $50 million in 2000. They laughed it off. Netflix was considered a very small niche business, a gamble Blockbuster was not willing to take. This decision would haunt them for years to come, but not in the way you think. It may still be fair to see Netflix as the tech industry's David, laying waste to massive Blockbuster's Goliath. Many certainly do, but that is not quite true. In fact, Blockbuster was actually right to laugh off Netflix, and actually had plenty of chances to fend off Netflix's advances long before the tech startup became the billion-dollar behemoth it is today. In fact, Mark Randolph, who served as Netflix's first CEO until 1999 after co-founding the company with current CEO Reed Hastings, in own words, once said that many people do not realize how close Blockbuster came to actually winning. Big and well-established, Blockbuster really held almost all of the cards in that negotiation deal. However, Netflix did have a few advantages. To start, many customers were fed up with aspects of Blockbuster's business model. For instance, in 2000, Blockbuster collected $800 million in late fees from customers. In fact, Netflix's early success in adding subscribers hinged on luring away Blockbuster customers who were tired of being charged $1 a day for late returns. Hastings has even said he had the idea to start Netflix because he was irked by paying $40 in Blockbuster late fees. Netflix offered DVD rentals by mail and at a flat rate with no late fees. As a result, Netflix topped 1 million subscribers within 3 years after being rebuffed by Blockbuster, and 6 million by the end of 2006. But eventually, Blockbuster and CEO Antioco realized that Netflix was onto something. In 2004, a year in which Netflix's annual revenue hit $500 million, Blockbuster debuted its own online DVD subscription service called Blockbuster Online. Blockbuster Online quickly added over 1 million subscribers less than a year after launching, and then succeeded in hitting its online goals by reaching 2 million subscribers by the end of 2006. It was still trailing Netflix in overall online subscribers, but Blockbuster was picking up steam, even adding online subscribers just as quickly as the fast-growing Netflix. In 2006, Blockbuster launched Blockbuster Total Access, which allowed online subscribers to return DVDs to Blockbuster's brick-and-mortar locations and exchange them for another DVD for free. That move added a wrinkle to Blockbuster's plan that Netflix could never match, and it finally seemed as if Blockbuster might be able to put Netflix on the ropes. In one quarter of 2007, Netflix even lost 55,000 subscribers compared to the previous quarter, while Blockbuster's subscriber base continued its growth. That move, in one swoop, hurt Netflix at their very core, taking both their revenue source and their customer base. In fact, Netflix co-founder Randolph, who left the company in 2003, admitted that at that point, things got very scary for the startup, once Blockbuster finally put serious resources toward its digital business, mustering the true strength that they could and that we couldn't match, which was a blended model of online and stores. Given Blockbuster's financial might compared to Netflix, it's not hard to imagine an alternate reality where Blockbuster continued to grow its online business and eventually wrote Netflix out of the history books. So, what stopped them? Why didn't Netflix become the forgotten underdog and Blockbuster remain on top forever? 2 reasons: ego and debt. First of all, Blockbuster was already carrying roughly $1 billion in debt when the company launched its online business, as its former parent company, Viacom, saddled its subsidiary with debt while spinning off Blockbuster into its own public company in 2004. The debt was an especially big problem for Blockbuster, because launching its online subscription business was expensive. For instance, every time a Blockbuster customer actually exchanged a DVD at one of its stores through the Total Access plan, Blockbuster lost about $2. The idea that Blockbuster would eventually add enough subscribers to make Total Access profitable. Netflix faced similar obstacles, which is why the company took over 6 years to post its first profit and why it continues to burn through billions of dollars each year while adding new streaming content to grow its subscriber base. Blockbuster's debt rankled shareholders, especially with Blockbuster plowing roughly $200 million into an online business that was not yet profitable, while also losing out on hundreds of millions of dollars in late fees. Another thing that got in the way of Blockbuster squashing Netflix was Wall Street billionaire and activist investor Carl Icahn. By 2005, Icahn had acquired a nearly 10% stake in Blockbuster, large enough to entitle him to 3 seats on the company's board, where he immediately began battling Antioco for control of the company in an attempt to quickly boost its stock price. Icahn and the other board members he installed vehemently opposed Antioco's plan to build out Blockbuster's online business, and especially the decision to ditch the company's lucrative late fees. They didn't seem to grasp the importance of building a strong digital presence to the future of Blockbuster's industry. In the end, though, Blockbuster's ultimate demise may have come down to an argument between Antioco and Icahn over the CEO's bonus. After a strong year in 2006, Antioco was due an annual bonus of more than $7.6 million, which Icahn felt was exorbitant. Icahn began pushing for Antioco's ouster, and the CEO agreed to step away in March 2007. Antioco accepted a roughly $3 million bonus plus an additional buyout of almost $5 million to walk away from Blockbuster, leaving Icahn free to install a CEO he supported. That CEO was James Keyes, who had previously been CEO of 7-Eleven but had little experience building a digital business. Icahn and Keyes wanted Blockbuster to focus on growing its revenue to pay off its debt, which they believed meant turning the company's focus away from the online business and reinvesting in brick-and-mortar stores. Under Keyes, the company even reinstated its unpopular late fees in 2010. Blockbuster's online subscription business sputtered, and the company was suddenly faced with an even larger obstacle than Netflix, the 2008 financial crisis that led to the Great Recession. The financial crisis made it a scary time to be carrying so much debt, especially since banks were no longer as willing to lend additional money. That same year, Netflix hit 20 million subscribers and started expanding overseas. Today, Netflix boasts more than 183 million global subscribers and has a market share of 160 billion. As for Dear Blockbuster, by 2010, the writing was on the wall. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy, a move that seemed unimaginable just a decade earlier. The giant had fallen, and its stores, once bustling hubs of activity, were reduced to empty shells, nostalgic relics of a bygone era. In the wake of its bankruptcy, Blockbuster became a cautionary tale, a case study dissected in business schools and boardrooms alike. But what happened to the brand itself? After the bankruptcy, Dish Network acquired Blockbuster's remaining assets in 2011 with plans to integrate it into its own services. However, these plans largely fell through, and the Blockbuster brand continued to fade into obscurity. Lessons? The downfall of Blockbuster is a masterclass in business lessons, each one serving as a chapter in its unraveling saga. Adapt or become history. The cost of complacency. Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix for a mere $50 million in 2000, but passed on the opportunity. This wasn't just a missed opportunity, it was a glaring oversight. Blockbuster's leadership failed to see the seismic shifts in consumer behavior and technology. They clung to an outdated business model, even as the world moved online. The lesson? Always keep an eye on emerging trends and technologies. Ignorance is not bliss. It's a one-way ticket to obsolescence. The hubris of debt. The double-edged sword. At its peak, Blockbuster was opening a new store every 17 hours. This rapid expansion was fueled by debt. While leveraging debt can accelerate growth, it also increases vulnerability during economic downturns or shifts in market dynamics. Blockbuster's debt became a straitjacket, restricting its ability to adapt when adaptation was crucial. The takeaway? Use debt as a tool, not as a crutch. A house divided. The internal struggles. Blockbuster's internal politics were a quagmire. The CEO and the board were often at loggerheads, leading to inconsistent strategies and a lack of long-term vision. This internal discord created a vacuum of leadership at a time when the company needed it the most. The lesson here is that a cohesive internal culture is not a nice-to-have, it's a must-have. The mirage of invincibility. The illusion of a moat. Blockbuster felt invincible, protected by its brand and extensive network of stores. This false sense of security led to strategic blunders like dismissing the threat of digital streaming. The company believed its moat was impenetrable, but it was merely a puddle. The lesson? Always question your assumptions. Complacency breeds failure. While Netflix is often cited as the killer of Blockbuster, the reality is far more nuanced. Blockbuster's downfall was largely self-inflicted, stemming from a series of strategic missteps, internal discord, and a failure to adapt to changing market conditions. Netflix capitalized on those weaknesses, but it didn't create them. The business of resentment, the late fee fiasco. Blockbuster's late fees were not just a significant revenue stream, they were a source of customer resentment. When Netflix came along with its no late fee model, it was easy to point fingers and say Netflix killed Blockbuster. But that's a simplistic narrative. Blockbuster's late fees were a symptom of a larger problem, a business model that was increasingly out of touch with what customers wanted. The lesson? Listen to your customers. They're not just revenue streams, they're your most valuable source of feedback and innovation. And remember, your competition doesn't kill you, your failure to listen to your customers does. In essence, Blockbuster's downfall was a confluence of self-inflicted wounds, a failure to adapt to market shifts, financial mismanagement, internal discord, strategic hubris, and a disconnect with customer needs. While Netflix may have been the final nail in the coffin, it was Blockbuster that built the coffin in the first place. The company's decline serves as a multifaceted lesson for businesses in the importance of adaptability, financial prudence, internal cohesion, strategic foresight, and customer centricity. So, as we look back on the demise of Blockbuster, let it not be a tale of how Netflix killed Goliath, but rather a narrative that underscores the complexities of business failures and the multifaceted lessons they offer. It's a story that reminds us that companies don't fail merely because of external threats. They fail because of an accumulation of internal weaknesses that turn those external threats into existential crises. Today, there's one Blockbuster left, standing like the last sentinel of a bygone era. Located in Bend, Oregon, it's both a museum and a mausoleum, a place where nostalgia goes to die and also to rent Die Hard. At its zenith, the store commanded thousands of employees as a worldwide force and was almost assured to be the kings of global entertainment in the years to come. Now a forgotten has-been, a living relic that serves as a testament to how quickly fortunes can change in the business world. If you enjoyed this cinematic journey through the ruins of Blockbuster, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because unlike Blockbuster, we're not going anywhere.